Hello and welcome to a special episode of Fools Rush In, where we look at things from the other side. We have spent many weeks now as a panel discussing transfer rumours, players coming, players going. But what really happens to the players involved? I'm delighted to say that myself, Craig and Rich are joined tonight by former Town defender Jamie Sendles-White. How are you, Jamie?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you all?
Yeah, very, very well, thank you. And thank you again for agreeing to do this. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the other side. You know, fans are very quick to pass judgment on a lot of things, so it'd be good to hear what actually does happen during this, this bit between the end of one season and the start of another. Craig, Rich, good evening to you both as well.
Evening,
Glad you could join in. So let's get the important stuff out of the way. We were just chatting a little bit off record there, but how have you been finding the heat at the minute, Jamie? It's certainly been intense the last couple of days, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been tough, but it's it's better like this than when it's absolutely Baltic. So yeah. We're very quick to complain in this country about things. So I think we should enjoy the heat, enjoy the day as much as we can.
No, that's absolutely it. Okay, so I'm interested, and the rest of the guys on the panel are interested to know how there's a consensus of how things work. Football fans kind of understand players' contracts run out, they either sign a new one, they get released, or they've already got something lined up. But during, once one season closes and you've got that, I don't know what, 6-week period, 8-week period until the new season starts, if that. It can be a difficult time for players, can't it? If they haven't got that sort of security of their contract, they've got another year or two at one club, or they've already signed something at another club.
It's it's a really strange time, and I think that it's only a lot tougher and a lot harder. I don't know why. I think maybe COVID hasn't helped in terms of the finances. I think that's a lot of the time clubs are using that now when they don't need to be able to save some money. But also, it's tough when you're in between clubs and you're training, you're trying to keep fit, or you're on holiday and the phone doesn't ring. You're thinking, oh no, what am I going to do? On the other hand, the phone might be ringing and you've got loads of clubs call in and you have to make a decision when you're on the beach on holiday trying to switch off. And I think these are the sides of football where the fans don't see. And I think a lot of the time the fans, because they don't see it, and how can they? I think that they can judge quite quickly on certain situations. And certainly in my situation, I've had it, and we'll go into detail about it. But it's been, it's not been easy, and I feel that people can get their opinion quite quickly when really they don't know the whole detail behind it.
And
yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Jamie, it's interesting you're saying about how COVID's probably affected like the lower league clubs and everything. Obviously, you was at Aldershot and you had a good season there. You was captain, wasn't you? I believe, but you had a bit of an issue with them. They offered you a contract, and then at the last minute, it was rescinded. Do you think that was like a COVID thing, or were they just being out of order?
No, so that was that at Aldershot. I turned the contract down.
Right.
So that what happened there was I think what happened was I went there, I'd imagine probably top earner, and the end of the season came, and I think that they, like a lot of clubs, would have used the pandemic as an excuse to offer less money to everyone. But I'm a big believer, and it's happened a few times. So I think the last time I was actually like released from a club was Leyton Orient, I think. Wow. So all of the other times it's been I know my worth, and I think that everyone will have their opinion on it. A set of fans might say that I'm useless, probably like the Orient fans say, no, he's not worth that. But then I've got other sets of fans that would go, no, he's definitely worth it, and fair play to him for. So that's been a situation for me. And the Aldershot thing was, I know my worth, and I think that what they've offered me doesn't meet that, so I will have to say no.
Well, the case in point with that is when I put out that you were joining us, we got a tweet by someone named Jason who said, who messaged in and said, "Tell Jamie that he'll find a club soon. He is too good a centre back to be left on the shelf." So there's exactly what you were saying. You know, you were picking out one group of fans who might have one opinion, and there will always be fans with other opinions. I know, for example, when you left Swindon, I for one was like, oh, do you know what? I'm actually disappointed with that, because obviously we knew that the situation that you'd had during the season and stuff with injuries, but I was kind of like, if he can get fit again, he will be, you know, he will be a great defender for us again. And I was disappointed myself when the news came out that you weren't staying.
Yeah, I think it was, you know, again with the Swindon situation, I've touched on it. I've not really gone into too much detail with it, but it was very much, I'm sure you can imagine, I won't name any names, but I'm sure thinking back to the time when I was there. Is it
initials L and P?
It might be. you can imagine.
We need not say any more.
Yeah.
We know your worth as well.
Yeah. You can imagine what I was up against there, and it was Luke, who is brilliant, you know, one of the best people you'll ever meet in football. He was fighting for it, but the way it ended was just, it was just, I think it was just really disrespectful. I'd left the season and they said, oh no, it got to the point where they said, if we stay up, then you'll get a contract. If we go down, I had an option in my contract, so I had a year option. They said, if you stay up, we'll get it. Then all of a sudden it was like, no, if we go down, then you'll get your option. Back and forward. This was since I did my knee. You know, we knew straight away that my season was over. So Luke was fighting to get me my option sorted straight away, like, you know, a few days after, so that gave me that peace of mind that I'd be all right for the following season. It was back and forward all season. Then it went quiet. Then then Tim Sherwood came in. It was just why?
I think we were all asking why as well.
We were all the same. We thought this was the most bizarre move we'd ever seen in our life.
According to Lee Power, Jamie, he was the greatest signing in Swindon Town's history, which is quite a statement considering we've had Lou Macari, Ozzy Aldiles, Glenn Hoddle and Paolo Di Canio managing. So
that's a very, very old statement. So, you know, that whole season towards the end, and I think people don't see it, and I don't think Luke and Ross, to be fair, have had their time to speak about it, but I think that they were done by, you know, horribly, because all of it was put onto them. You know, and when you see the games, when you're at the game, you might remember it, and Luke and Ross were getting dogs abuse, and it was like, from the inside we saw everything that was happening, and we were like, no, it's not them. They're brilliant. They're brilliant. They'll go on to, you know, do amazing things. So anyway, long story short, the season finished. I still hadn't been told anything. I was trying to get fit. I probably just had my third operation, trying to get fit, and then I got a phone call from one of the guys. Just to be honest, none of you will probably even know who he is. Just a nobody from the club rang me on a number I didn't have saved and just said, just to let you know that your option won't be taken up in your contract. That was it. That's how it ended. And it was disappointing, because I always say to anyone that when they ask about my career, I say that Swindon was the club that is closest to my heart. I've absolutely loved it there. I loved living there. The fans were brilliant with me, you know, and I absolutely loved it. And I think that before I got injured, that was probably where I was playing some of my best football.
Yeah.
I was really confident that I was going to kick on, and so it was a shame that they allowed it to end like that. I feel like I deserve maybe a little bit more respect from the people that were doing the decisions to maybe sit me down and have a chat and tell me why they weren't going to be offering me one.
Was there any point, obviously during your rehab and obviously training to come back, was there any point that you thought that option might not have been taken up, or?
Like I said, it was so day to day, it was
out of the
like
blue?
yes, yeah, we'll get it sorted. Next minute it was, oh, I don't know yet, we don't know, probably not. And then it was like, no, definitely not. And then it was back on again. It was just so up and down that, and again, the fans don't see this side of things, but that's hard to deal with when you're trying to get fit and you're having operations and then the club are saying yes, no. It's hard to deal with, and I think that and that's not uncommon.
Because in your mind, your goal is to obviously get back fit and playing football again, right?
That's it. And along with that comes, if I'm not fit and I'm not playing, how do I pay for my
no club will want you. Exactly.
So yeah, it's tough. It's very tough. I had conversations with Luke and at the time, and he was he couldn't have spoke any more highly of me. He said that obviously Nathan Thompson was to leave at the end of that season, and he said that I was going to be the one that comes in to replace Nathan and blah blah blah. So I know if Luke was still there at the time and the club wasn't in the situation it was, then I would have been very confident that I'd have been there the following season and hopefully for more years to come, but it just wasn't to be, unfortunately.
You mentioned about knowing your worth and how that is a major factor in all of your career-based decisions. I think a lot is made, and it's because lower leagues in particular aren't focused on that. They're not as flashy and not as fancy for the media. It's getting better, but it's still not great. So when you've got, for example, Sky Sports doing their transfer roundup, and you're seeing these elite international players jetting around the world, signing contracts, buying fancy mansions or renting fancy mansions, whatever they're doing, and people think that's kind of what it looks like. But it's not, is it? That's not realistic. You said about knowing your worth, but you've got logistical things to consider, like your family and stuff. It's not as if you can just up sticks and move every time that you move clubs. So you kind of need to think about what's your location. Can you stay where you are, or do you need to move? If there's children involved, you need to consider schooling and all that as well, isn't it?
Well, that's it. There's so much that comes with it, especially when you get older. When you're younger, you have a little bit more freedom with it. You might be single, you might have no kids, you might have, you bought your place, you're on rent, so you can move when you want. Which I think, in my opinion, and I know a lot of players who've spoken about it quite recently in the last year or two, football's changing. Yeah. Football's changing massively, and you'll start to notice that, without being disrespectful to some of the players that are getting moves, it's like, hold on, where's this guy come from? Because he's 20, he can take a lot less money than me at 28. I can't take that money because I've got bills and mortgages and whatever I've got to pay for. And he can afford to do that. And I think that's the way football's going with the young ones as well. They've got the added bonus that if they do well, they can sell them and make a load of money. And yeah, with the location, like it's hard. Like I haven't gone into too much detail about what happened when I left Aldershot, when I turned the contract down at Aldershot, but this was another situation that fans don't see, and you end up getting a bit of stick for it, but really they don't see the full story. And I will at some point, probably when I finish playing, or when I'm ready to finish playing, I'll come out and I'll talk about all of these things that have happened, so that people can get an idea of actually, what the football industry is not a nice place. It's really not a nice place.
I can only imagine how cutthroat it really is.
Do you know what I wouldn't even say it's cutthroat. I would say that there's a lot of cowards, a lot of arrogant people that are in a position of a bit of power, and that gets abused. Yeah, that gets abused. And there's no HR in football, so you can't. Who are you going to complain to? And like I said, it's not just me; it's players, and I think that you see it. If you ever watch Under the Cosh,
I love Under the Cosh,
because the players have finished playing now, and they just say it how it is, and they say, actually, all this stuff did happen, and and they're not one-off situations. I would say, majority of players have been in a situation like where they've gone. That just shouldn't happen. Like, I've just been disrespected completely there. Like the situation when I left Aldershot, I turned the contract down at Aldershot, and I'd agreed a deal at a club. Shall I say it? Yeah, why not? So
yeah, why not?
I'd agreed a deal at Halifax. So crazy. I live in Surrey, and I was moving to Halifax. So it took a while to get sorted. I was really unsure at the start because I've got my girlfriend down here. She works. She's got a job. I've got my house down here, and it took a lot of thinking and planning. I've got a coaching company down here where I needed to sort that out before I make any commitments. So I went up to meet them. All agreed. That it wasn't agreed on the day, but they basically said, "What's it going to take for you to come and sign for us? You're exactly what we need." So I went back, had a think, agreed the money. I put my house up for sale. I wasn't going to buy up there. I was looking to buy round the corner from here. So I put my house up for sale, had an offer in on a new property. I got someone on a salary for my coaching company, so that was all covered. My girlfriend was actually a day or two away from leaving her job. So like, these are the things where the knock-on effects of, if this falls through, like, I've made some big decisions here. Anyway, so I got a phone call one morning saying, "Yeah, ready for you to come up and sign. We've sorted your accommodation up. Come up tonight, sign, go back, and then start again on." I think this must have been like a Thursday, and you'll be ready to go on Monday. I'm halfway up the M1, literally halfway up the M1. The manager calls me, says the chairman's pulled the deal. I'm 2 hours up the M1, so I'm thinking that doesn't happen. Like, I know things fall through, and not when they've rang me that morning saying it's ready for you to come and sign. So basically, what happened was, I won't mention names because
that's completely understandable.
Just you're still in the industry, ain't you? You can't.
I will at some point. Don't worry, because the guys are horrible.
When you retire, Jamie, in about 5 to 7 years' time, we'll have you back on, mate, and you can reveal all, mate.
I'll go to town. And I did some digging, because it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen last minute. So I rang the people that I thought would have been something to do with it, and it turns out that a member of staff, it might have been another member of staff as well, but one for certain, that the Halifax had contacted them. I must have been on the day I was going up, just to get must have been like an injury reference or something like that. I don't know. And he basically said, "Don't sign him, not worth the money," because I turned the contract down, and probably because we didn't get on.
Yeah.
So all because
so
of
it's
this,
basically payback
for something that is,
for basically making a professional decision.
It doesn't need payback for. It's like and if you take that into the real world, you can't do that. You can't say to someone, you can't take him on board. You can only say facts. And when he lied to them, he said, "You won't get games." I was captain of the club. I played, I don't know how many games that season, but more than enough to be classed as fit. And just completely destroyed that move. So now I've got an offer in on a house that I can't buy because I'm going through. I've had to call my missus quickly. Don't leave your job. I've got now got someone on a salary at my coaching company, where that was the money that I was going to be relying on if I didn't. So now I'm thinking, right, I've got to get extra work with the coaching to cover my salary.
Yeah.
Because in a normal job, in a normal, say for example, admin job, say you even got fired from it, but you had your references on your CV and stuff like that, and they contacted your references, "Oh, why did you leave your last job?" They can't say a bad thing about you.
No, they're not allowed to. Yeah.
No, exactly. So why should that be any different to football? And like we said, obviously, if for some reason or other, they obviously were a bit, bitter about you not wanting to sign that contract with Aldershot, and you wanting to go to another club, and that's absolutely just
and that's just it just fuels the fire for people outside of the game. When you hear stories like that, you know, people within the game, not all people, but certain people within the game feel like they're untouchable and the rules don't apply to them, because it's just unbelievable when you actually hear it firsthand like that, how these things actually come about.
It is. It's crazy. It really is crazy. But like I said, I'm saying my story now, and people might take it that I'm being bitter or whatever. It's. I promise you, it's not me. I bumped into a player who goes to the same gym as me the other day, and he had it this summer, and he couldn't believe it. He said, it because it has an effect on you. He said, you know, it affects you mentally. You know, I'm not saying that you get, you know, really depressed, but it has an effect on your life day to day, because
of course it does.
I imagine it take, you know, that would take its toll. I mean, you're saying it was a big decision. That's a life-changing decision. Most people think that because you're in the 5th tier, it's not as big a deal, but it's even more so, because obviously the margins are tighter for you guys financially, and with all the other stuff you were saying about, you know, your girlfriend nearly quitting her job and everything. It's I think that's, you know, going back to what you're saying, people don't realize that from outside, what's, you know, how that can affect you. So that's just unbelievable.
It's crazy. I mean, and then I came back. I mean, last season I could go on for hours about the stuff that happened last season. It's just you just wouldn't believe it. But the next one, I'll go into this next bit, because it's, again, it can show what can happen in football. So I'd had a few offers that I just wasn't, like I said, I value myself at a certain, you know, pay grades sort of thing. And I struggle to go below if I don't think it's where I should be. So I had a few offers, turned quite a few down, and I did a post. I did a post that summer. I think it might have been late, just after, I can't remember when it was, but I did a post because I had so many people saying, why have you not got a club? Why have you not got a club? And I'm not just going to take a club where financially it will be tough for me to pay the mortgage. It doesn't make sense. You know, I've got a business where, absolute worst case, I can do that and I can, you know, get paid through that.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I want to play football, of course I do. Everyone does. Well, not everyone does, but I've given my life to football. So of course I want to play for as long as I can. It's not that at all. It's you get to a certain age and you have responsibilities that you have to pay for, and you have whatever it might be you need to pay for. So anyway, I turned quite a few things down, and then I was meant to meet a club. I won't say which club for this one, but I was meant to meet a club on a Thursday morning. So I was meant to go and meet the manager. He was going to show me around, talk money, and hopefully get a deal sorted. But on the Wednesday evening, I spoke to Phil Brown. And
another man with a high reputation at Swindon Town. I'll leave that there. But I actually get on really well with him. He's actually, you know, from me dealing with him, he's a good guy. He's always been really respectful with me. And I like any other club, I'm sure that there's people that will disagree with me, but he's always been really respectful with me. So we had a phone call. Ross Embleton called me, said that he'd been asked for a reference from Southend, it was at the time. So he said, look, can you come in Thursday? I said, yeah, all right, I'll come in and whatnot. And we ended up, it took till Friday evening, but we basically had a phone call that said, yeah, we'll get a deal sorted on Monday. Plan to come in Monday, and we'll get going. I need someone like you in the squad, basically. So brilliant. Friday evening, I was buzzing. Saturday, we're going out for some dinner, me and my girlfriend, just to kind of go, finally, that nightmare's over. They lost on Saturday. He got sacked after the game. My contract completely off the table. So I'm nothing. It's just outrageous. It's just one of those seasons where you just can't get any luck. And again, it's like
people will see it and go, oh, he's still not got a club, must be a problem, must be this, must be that. No, just football can work like that, and there's nothing you can do. There's players that I've seen drop that should never ever drop and should be playing at a really high standard, and they just don't get the luck or they don't get the chance.
Yeah, no, you see it all the time at every level, things like that, and that's where, you know, some fan bases, they get excited because, you know, this player that should not be playing at their club because, you know, he's too big. But then you've also got the questions of, well, why has he ended up down there? This is all really, really fascinating stuff, and I'm really enjoying listening. But I just want to take a sidestep for a moment, if I can, Jamie, because you mentioned coaching, and I know Rich does coaching as well, and he had a couple of things he wanted to ask you about that side of things, if that's all right.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so obviously, like in the last in the last year or so, obviously, I don't know what age groups that you have at the coaching company. I'm assuming it's from quite young, from like under 6s up to like under 14s, under 15s. Is that right?
Yeah, we've probably the youngest ones we do probably about under 7s.
Yeah,
we got up to under 14s at the minute.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously yesterday it came out about obviously heading for under 12s. So from obviously you're obviously a defender, and obviously an integral part of your game was heading, and one of your main abilities. Obviously, when you were coming up in the ranks, I mean, how crucial was that coaching for heading? And do you think that heading should be taken out of the game from under 12s, obviously given like the medical reasons, or do you not think that it's much of a problem? Personally, for me, I don't agree with it. I don't think it should really be taken out of the game, but I just want your perspective on it. Yeah,
it's a tough one. I mean, like, I think it's the way the game's going, and I think it's the way the world's going at the minute. Obviously, if you've got an under 12 that's heading it 100 times every single training session, probably not great.
No,
but if he wants to go and have a career at
any able to head a ball
of football, then he's going to have to do it. If he doesn't, and he's playing it for fun, no problem. You know, go and enjoy football, like, because it's an enjoyable thing to do and people love it. But what that's going to do is, when they get older and they get to under 18s or whatever age group they're allowed to head it properly, they're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
For me, the interesting counter side to the argument is obviously it's based on, you know, generations of data. But I mean, we were having a chat in our pod WhatsApp group. The difference between, you know, the people who have been tested for this and proven as the case study, just the footballs, never mind anything else, that the footballs being used today are completely different, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's like I said, I think it's the way that we're going. Everything's so sensitive. You can't say this, you can't do that. And I'm sure there is scientific evidence. I'm sure there is, and I'm sure that there's you know, something to back it up, of course. But if you look into detail about that many things, then you won't get out of bed in the morning. You won't do anything. So I understand it, but from my personal point of view, you know, you can limit the heading, but you don't have to ban it. You don't have to ban it.
I think football itself is obviously a very dangerous game. I mean, you could break your arm, break your legs by doing slide tackles or anything like that. Obviously, you had a quite a serious injury, obviously, while you were obviously at Swindon, and just like small things like that could obviously completely affect your career and everything like that. And I think obviously, if you do have a long career as a defender, and most defenders do have long careers, I understand it, but if you took heading out of the game, and like you say, it's just the way that football is going in these days, it completely changes the game itself. I mean, you see more defenders these days, obviously, with the obviously ball at the feet, like sort of thing, but heading is still a massive part of the game. And I just think, obviously, when you take heading completely out of the game, I mean, from your just from your perspective, how do you reckon that would affect your game?
I mean, I like to play the way that we played at Swindon with Luke. I love to play total football. That's my favourite way of playing. Not many teams do it. But yeah, if you take it out from teams I've played for, like all I do is head it and kick it for some teams that I've played for, and that's their style, and that's fine. That's how they want to play. You know, if you look at John Stones, for example, like unbelievable on the ball, but he's unbelievable in the air. He heads it a lot, wins a lot of headers, and he has to head it a lot. And that's the Premier League, and that's one of the best ball playing centre backs in the Premier League, I think. So it's a big part of the game, and I understand that you have to look out for the kids. I get that, and I respect that, but I think there's probably better ways than banning heading, because that you have a generation then of players that are coming through that can't head it and probably aren't geared up to play men's football because they're not toughened up from it.
Yeah, because I remember when Richie Wellens was at Swindon, we signed a young lad called Akin Odemeo. And I remember in one of his interviews, he says the way that obviously he's come through, he can't head the ball for anything because he wasn't taught it.
Yeah.
He's a young lad, and we need players. Although Richie Wellens was very much a ball playing, he liked to centre halves play with the ball at their feet. It's such an integral part of the game. So,
well, even if you look at it from a fan's perspective, you know, it's great when you've got a defender who can play with the ball. Like, you know, it's great to watch them do it. But there's nothing worse than when you see what fans perceive as a simple cross into the box and nobody can head it.
Yeah.
You know.
I understand that. And like I said, if you were to take it out or you were to ban it for certain age groups, I think that would be the case more often than not, is that they wouldn't know how to head it. They wouldn't know how to deal with, I'm trying to think of a big striker now, like when Tom Pope or someone like that, like he's just going to walk all over you. He'd walk all over someone who's brilliant in the air.
Yeah.
So imagine not being able to head it and not knowing how, not being very good and playing against him. It's just impossible.
Brilliant.
Another sort of transfer related question, if I can. So Swindon have today signed a new centre half, which has got a lot of the fans quite excited because it's the sort of player that we've been waiting to come through this window. When you're an established player at a club and they bring someone in with this reputation that, you know, the fans are already saying he's going straight in the first 11. How does that, you know, I imagine that the obvious answer is, well, it motivates you to keep going and prove that you deserve to keep your place. But is that always the case? Or are you instantly thinking, why are they looking to replace me when I think I'm doing all right?
It can, it's a good question. It can change, really. I mean, if it's Angus McDonald, right, that's coming today. If I was a centre back there now and they brought him in, I'd go, fair enough. Like, obviously I want to play, and obviously like I'm going to try and get in the team, and like, but he's a brilliant career, brilliant player, probably on good money, so the club are going to want to play him. You know, sometimes you kind of have to hold your hands up and go, do you know what? He's brilliant. Like, and I hope I can play, and I'll do everything possible to play. But if he's playing in front of me and he's playing well, like, I can go and speak to the manager, but I'm quite realistic with it, you know. And again, if the manager spoke to me and said, look, Angus McDonald's playing in front of you, I'd have to go, yeah, well, fair enough. Just hope I get in the team at some point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if they brought someone in that was like brilliant and he's not, he's crap, then yeah, I'm raging off it. And I'd want to speak to the manager about it, of course, yeah.
I guess it's going back to knowing what you're worth as well, isn't it, Jamie?
I think that the problem with football is that you get into a state of like self-defense the whole time, and you build up this ego because of how a lot of the time you get treated, and you build up like an ego and a self-defense that, no, I'm the best ever. Like, no, I'm better than him. I need to play. Well, I'm not playing. But I try to sort of realize that if he's better than me, what can I do? If he's better than me, he's going to play ahead of me. Simple as that. And you can be upset and you can be annoyed about it, of course. You get all those feelings, but you just have to accept sometimes that someone's better than you. And that's my view on it. But I think what feeds that is that Luke was brilliant at it. He would come and tell you honestly. If you weren't playing, he'd tell you why. He'd tell you long before you could even work yourself up in your head thinking if you are playing or not. He'd nip it in the bud. And that's what he was brilliant at with all players. Whereas what can build the tension, I think, is when a manager won't speak to you all week, won't speak to you Saturday, and then you're on the bench or you're out the squad. That's where you have the issues, because all that you'd want is just a bit of honesty. And I'd never ever have an issue with a manager if he just said, I think he's better than you. No problem. I respect that more than the lies. And I think most players are like that. If you just were honest. So yeah, going back to the question, if he was good, I wouldn't have a problem. If he wasn't good, I'd have a problem with it.
I think it's interesting what you say about Luke Williams, and you've mentioned him several times. And I think near enough every player who's played for him hasn't had a bad word to say about him. They've praised him like you have, which speaks volumes for him, especially as a coach and everything. But I was wondering if I could ask you this question, Jamie, and feel free to say no if you don't want to. Obviously, this was in the middle of your injury, the bad injury that you had at Swindon. But do you feel that Luke Williams was undermined by Tim Sherwood?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I won't. Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? It's happened. It's done.
Can't change history now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And what I think a lot of people haven't spoken about is that he came, undermined him, and then
Ballsed everything up.
Going to plan, just kind of slivered out, and then left Luke to be the fall guy.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw him. He was on Goals on Sunday at the end of the season after we'd just been confirmed relegated, and he was totally distancing himself from the job, which I just felt rubbed salt in the wounds for Swindon fans and also for Luke Williams, because a lot of us did feel that he was undermined by Tim Sherwood, and for him to have the audacity to go on Goals on Sunday and play down his role, supposedly the biggest signing in the club's history, and he was just there helping out a mate. It just begged belief for me.
There's a lot of things about that situation that don't sit right with me, and the people that were there at the time will have seen it. And like I said, I could probably go for hours, but let me save that for when I finish playing.
Your retirement special.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that retirement special. That's for sure.
I was going to say, looking forward to that already.
I demand for that one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Can I ask you a couple of questions about, you the player and how it's changed over the course of your career? A lot is made, and fans do get it to an extent, but obviously footballers are living the dream that thousands of us, for one reason or another, couldn't do. You're living the dream that I couldn't do because, one, I was fat and unfit, and two, I was technically rubbish at football. That's the two main reasons I wasn't a professional footballer. I was no good and I was unfit. That's quite simple. When it comes to the individual tactics of something, how much does a player, care's the wrong word, let's take centre-backs for an example. There's a big call. Is it better to play a 2 or is it better to play a 3? Do you have a preference as a player whether you play in a 2 or a 3? Or are you just happy to play?
I'm happy, to be honest, I'm happy in any one of those positions. I'm happy there, I'm happy holding midfield, I'm happy in a 2, I'm happy in a 3. That wouldn't bother me. If someone said you got to play right back, then I'd be like, nah, like that. I don't like that. I don't like right back. It's not for me. Some players have preference with it. I mean, if I had to pick one, it would probably be middle of the 3 in a back 3. But
is there a reason for that?
Just, I think it's if you're a ball playing team, you get loads of the ball. Yeah. And you don't usually end up having a big scrap with big Tom Pope up front. So it's a little bit easier in that sense. But no, I some do, some have preference. I don't. I'm not too bothered. As long as I'm playing in one of those, I'm happy.
Okay. With regards to pre-season generally, and I appreciate every club will do it slightly differently, of course, but we would have all heard the stories and stuff growing up from our dads or whatever. Pre-season, it's all about the hard yards, it's all about the running. And then, as we've grown older and football's changed as a game, you see all the things coming out from clubs about pre-season, and it's all about, tactics and little passing drills and stuff like that. And it seems a lot less of the intense, over the top, running up massive mountains for pre-season fitness. What is pre-season actually like? Is it kind of I imagine, it's a blend of the two.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've had some probably more so when I was a lot younger, where it was still a little bit old school, where it was just like horrendous. Like, I'm not the best runner at all. Like, I never have been, never will be. Like, I'm usually towing towards the back somewhere. And for the fit boys and the good runners, like, it's probably tough, but it's all right for them because they can run. I can't run. There's compared to the average person, of course, I'm probably very, very fit.
I was going to say, you'll definitely beat me in a race.
Well, yeah. But it's like, in terms of football, I'm towards the back end in terms of running.
Okay.
I hate running. Like, I hate it. I actually get nervous the first day, and I'm like, please just don't be too much running. If it's ball work, if it's running with a ball, I'm fine. If there's like tough, hard keep balls or matches or whatever it is, I'm fine. I'd rather that. It's tough, but the second you get me to go and do a run, like, I'm awful. I hate it. I get nervous. I build myself up for it, and it's disgusting. But yeah, there's more so now. There's a mix. So you'll have your running, and then you'll have a lot of ball work and a lot of tactics and stuff. But I'm not a big believer in the running, probably because I'm not very good at it. I understand you need to build like your core fitness up, and more it helps you to get in shape, ready for a season. You don't want to be carrying too much weight or whatever it is, so it helps you to get into good shape. But if I was a manager, I'd be doing way more football than I would be doing running, and it can still be hard. It can still be very hard. Like, I see a team earlier, I don't know when they went to like an army boot camp. I don't understand it. When are you ever going to do that in a football match?
That's all stemmed from, if you think back to when we were all younger and like Dream Team and that was on, and they used to send them off to army boot camps and stuff just to get fit.
I don't understand it. Like, and if they say team bonding, well, do training, then tell the boys to go out and have a beer. That's better team bonding than lugging tyres around and crawling in like swamp. Like, I just don't understand it.
I'm pretty sure that was Danny Wilson's philosophy, wasn't it? I remember, I think it was F.R.I said that he just wanted people to go down and have a drink at the bar. But in terms of the actual running, that sounds like a lot from the Paolo Di Canio days. Literally, just running. Literally just running.
I think it's an Italian thing, because I had. Do you remember Gabriele Cioffi, the Italian guy?
Oh yeah.
And he was like, he was. I actually really got on with him. I thought he was really good. I think he, what made it hard for him in England was that he'd played his whole career in Italy, and
it's a different culture in it as well as anything else.
The Italian mentality with football is like it's the opposite of England. Like, England generally, if you look at English football, it's like drinking culture. 2 days off a week. Italy, it's like, no, we train like 7 days a week. We don't have any time off. Like, so that's what I think why he might struggle. But he's doing really well in Italy now. I think he's managing someone in Syria, like, doing really well. And that doesn't surprise me, because I could see that he could be a brilliant manager. But his running, oh my, like, jeez, he's my number one for the hardest running draw I've ever done. Hardest. Like,
just in terms of sheer intensity,
it was I thought, this is mental. Like, it's a mental battle, and I was thinking, I'm losing this. I'm going to have to stop in a minute. This is that hard. And we did it every Tuesday.
Oh, God.
And it gets, it's the 2 times I've been the absolute fittest was Luke Williams pre-season at Swindon and the Crawley Town season. The fittest I've ever been. Like, and it gets you in amazing shape, and you do the running, but you do loads of football, and it was brilliant. But yeah, that it must be an Italian thing with Paolo Di Canio as well. They just have that mindset of, just complete graft all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Particularly as you've gotten a little bit, I say older, let's face it, you're hardly old now, are you? But obviously there's a lot's made about the influence of social media and things like that. And I noticed even, I think you've put one out not so long ago, players putting out sort of YouTube compilations of themselves, sort of showing what they can do as sort of become a thing over the last 5 to 10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I might do it. I more so do it because I've got an okay following on Twitter. I know a lot of managers and coaches and people follow me. So that's the reason behind my one. It's not like, oh, look at me, look at what I did. Like that, that's not the reason at all. I do it because I hope that it can maybe reach someone that would have interest in giving me a contract. I don't have an agent. I learned the hard way with agents, especially when I was younger. So I just kind of, I try not to deal with them as much because I don't trust them. And I'm sure that, they probably don't have a very good reputation with fans. And,
no.
And on the whole, rightly so. There are some good ones. Of course there are. There's some good agents and there's some honest people there. But on the whole, like through my experience, like most of them are just want to line their pockets and they'll lie to you and they'll do it. And so I kind of do it myself. So that's why if you were to look through my social medias, a lot of it in the last 12 months or so, because of the year I've had and how badly it's gone wrong, I've kind of tried to put it out there to promote myself in that sense.
Yeah.
Some people do it because they want to go, look at me, look how many goals I scored, or whatever, which is fine. Like, no problem. They, if they've had a good season, like 100% enjoy it because they don't happen every year. But yeah, my reason is just so that hopefully someone can see it and realise that I'm out of contract.
I'd imagine that's probably more common than you think, Jamie, because especially at sort of like the lower levels now, where teams and coaches don't have those big scouting networks, and with it's modern day technology, isn't it? It's the equivalent to ringing up a manager on the phone and asking how they are. So I think that's probably more common than what people expect in sort of like leagues 1 and 2 and into the National League and so on. So
it wasn't that long ago that people used to joke about using things like Football Manager as a resource, but now you're hearing stories that people actually use Football Manager as a resource in professional football. That's
a mad one. I can't. If they do, that's mental because there's so many ways you can find details on a player. Except they got, but Football Manager just doesn't make sense to me.
It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. I appreciate this next one. You probably can't go into much, if any, detail, but it would be wrong of me not to ask anyway. We're very close to a new season starting. Does it look like you're going to be, with a club for the start of the season?
I don't know. We've got close. I say we. I've got close with a few. And at one stage it was looking like yes, but then the usual nonsense happened and it kind of fell again. So I'm not really sure. I've had some offers, but like I said before, I'm not.
You're not just going to settle.
I'm not just going to settle. But also I'm 28 and I want to try and play at a decent enough standard. I really, really don't want to have to drop below the National League. I understand that now it's quite tough because unless you're I just call it the chosen. Unless you're the chosen one, and you get a good contract put on the table early on, people will take liberties because you're out of contract, and they look at my last 12 months and they don't know the details.
Yeah. And
they can go, well, whatever reason, no, we're not going to give you this, we'll give you this, or whatever it might be. I've had financial offers that are very, very good, but they're at levels that I don't want to go to. So it's not just, I'm not just doing it financially, which again, a lot of people probably think. And when you post these things on social media, you open the door to people to have these opinions, which is fine. You can say what you want to me. It doesn't bother me. But I've had offers, very good financial offers from lower leagues, which I don't want to go to right now. So I'm just kind of holding out, waiting for the right one, and hopefully there's one that comes up that can get my career going again, and hopefully kick on a little bit.
Well, obviously, we wish you the very best of luck in that particular search, and look forward to seeing your name appearing on a team sheet very soon. A quick one on standard. You used the word standard there, and it's an interesting one. There's kind of this, it's part jovial, part elitist view on English football over Scottish football, etc. Do you think that the standards are that different? Like, I appreciate the very top end of the Premier League and stuff, but there's always that, could Rangers and Celtic do it in the Premier League? I'm not necessarily interested in that, but generally speaking, is it that much different playing in a division in Scotland and its counterpart in England?
The top league is very good, I think. Would Rangers and Celtic be Premier League? Probably not. But if they were in the Premier League, they'd have a bigger budget, and they would certainly be, because they're massive clubs. Massive. Like, it's, in terms of the size of the club, they're Premier League.
Yeah.
You've got then probably the next tier down, which is like Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, and again, they're good clubs. I would say they're like League One clubs.
Okay.
But when you play there, like when you play at Hearts, like I played at Hearts, and it's brilliant. Like the atmosphere, the ground, so it's a really good experience playing up there. But then you've got some clubs probably that float between the Scottish Championship and the Premiership, which again, they're probably like National League, like average National League clubs, in my opinion. It's hard to judge it, but the SPL is a really good league. And like you'll be on TV a lot. You'll be playing Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen. You'll be playing at these grounds, and it's proper football. So no, it's good. It's good up there.
Okay. You mentioned the National League a couple of minutes ago, Jamie. Obviously, that's the standard. Ideally, that's where you want to be sort of looking at for your next club, etc. Is it because of the competitiveness over the last couple of years that the national? Because I know for myself, the last season or so, I've actually watched the National League quite a bit, because there's so many teams in there these days that are just it's so competitive, and you don't know who's going to get the playoffs. It is like League Two, really. It keeps going up and down, changing a lot. Is that another reason why it's actually ideal for you, or something that you really want to get to?
Yeah, I mean, National League now is pretty much like an extended League Two, really. You've got the bottom sort of 4, 5, 6 teams, which like are non-league clubs, but the rest are big clubs and proper clubs.
Well, they're not all owned by Hollywood megastars, are they?
Yeah, crazy, that, crazy. So that's where I want to. I mean, look, I might sound completely deluded by this, but I've always been confident that I can still play League One football. Never going to happen. I'm realistic with it. I know that, but I'm, ability-wise, I'm more than confident that I can do it. This is the way the game goes. Sometimes people fall. Sometimes people are in League One when they really shouldn't be in League One. It's part and parcel of football, and you have to accept that. But National League for me, there's big clubs. It's proper football. sometimes horrendous looking football, but it's proper football. The grounds are nice. You get good fans there, and so that's why I say that National League is kind of where I want to be. Again, who knows? I might be playing for my pub next week, or I might be playing for some team in the National League. You just never know. And as much as I wish I had more control over it, I don't. And I just got to kind of have my fingers crossed that someone gives me the chance to do it. And again, League Two, right now I just can't see it happening because of the way things have gone for the last 12 months. But again, I know I could play it. Even when I was at Crawley, that's another story really, where another mad one where I didn't get released. It was just a complete madness, really. I mean, I can go into it if you've got time. If you haven't got time,
I've got plenty of time.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely, mate.
So got to sort of February it was, and we started again. I had an option in my contract, which I'm starting to really not want to put in. They just basically have you where they want you with the option. But we were negotiating a contract in February, and they said, we're not going to give the option, it's too much money. I said, no problem, renegotiate. And they came at me with an offer that was disrespectful. I thought, like, they'll look at it and go, no, but I personally thought it was disrespectful.
Yeah.
The problem that football has is I'm never one for asking or talking to other lads about money, and some boys are very open with it. I mean, if someone wants to tell me, they can tell me, but you end up knowing, you end up finding out one way or the other, whether you try to or not. People talk about it sometimes in football, and it spreads. So I was playing every week from January onwards, and there were players that weren't, who were on way more than what I was getting offered.
Yeah.
Not including my option. My option was fine. I said, I'll sign that tomorrow. But it was what they were offering me after that was like, well, I know that that's not fair. I'm playing every week, and I've lost 2 games. I lost 2 games for Crawley, I think. Never lost at home. So I said, look, it's not. I'm not going to sign that. I need this. And back and forward, they started getting really. The manager at the time, he's no longer there now, and I'm sure you probably saw what happened with that. I don't know any details. I won't comment on that. I think a lot of it was a bit far-fetched, but I don't know. I don't know what happened, so I won't comment on that. But he started to get funny with me. I don't know what his job was there, but he started getting funny with me. He's now left as well. COVID happened. Then the season stops. Don't hear anything. Or the usual excuses: COVID this, COVID that. We can't do this. We can't do that. And then I got a phone call saying, "Look, this is all we're going to offer you." I said, "Look, I need a little bit more." Blah blah blah. And I was being quite respectful of the COVID situation. But again, they weren't budging. They took out all my bonuses, took my salary down. So at this point, I'm thinking, well, I know my value. I'm not going to sign it. Yeah. And then I had a long conversation with my dad, and he said, "Look, just sign it. Like, just sign the contract. Do it for a year." Anyway, long story short, I agreed to it, and then I think this might have been the one that you touched on earlier. I agreed to it, and then it just kind of got very, very messy after that. And we exchanged some words, and then that was it. I left and went to Aldershot, which is just like, yes, I probably, in hindsight, would I have signed it straight away? No, probably not. I don't have regrets about it, but you just have to you have to value yourself and back yourself, because otherwise these people, they'll just have your pants down. They genuinely don't care.
Let's spend a little bit of time then, because I'm conscious of taking up your entire evening, as much as I, could genuinely listen to all of these stories all night. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about your time at Swindon. And we won't go through all the usual formality questions that people ask, but if I can ask to begin with, what was your initial thoughts when you heard that Swindon would put in an offer, and how all that came about, and how did your opinion of Swindon change between then and obviously the time when you left?
Swindon goes quite far back with me. I always loved Swindon. Like, when I say always, I'm talking like when I was at QPR and I was looking to get a loan, I was like, I want to go to Swindon, which was like quite bold for probably, what was I, 18, 19 at the time. It's quite a bold thing to go, I want to go to this club. But I just loved the style of play that they had. It suited me. It was, in terms of location, Surrey to Swindon, hour and 15, hour and 20 is perfect, really. So I was always trying to push it, and then there'd be a little bit of interest, and then they'd sign someone unreal. I think, who did they sign? I can't remember. It was Jack Stevens probably, and Jordan.
Southampton. Yeah.
Again, where I'm realistic, I go, well, they're brilliant players. Like, I can't really.
You're like, yeah, fair enough.
But then there was, I think I was 19. I'd been to Colchester on loan. I'd come back, and I was trying to push Swindon again. I was just obsessed with it. And I went down to play in a game against like Oxford or something. It was like a reserve game for Swindon, so they could have a look and see if they were interested at all. I played that game, but then literally within about a day or two, Mansfield came up. So I was like, I can't say no, because if I say no to Mansfield, then and Swindon doesn't happen, I'm stuck. So I went to Mansfield. When I left QPR at 21, I spoke to Luke, and he said, come in and train for a bit. He wasn't the manager at the time. And it didn't materialise, ended up signing for Hamilton. When I knew I was coming back from Hamilton in the January, I spoke to Luke again, and he was like, look, come in, like, we'll see if we can sort something. And it's probably the most happy I've been when there's been a contract signed with Swindon. Like, I can't tell you how buzzing I was, because it was so good, the training, the style of play. It's a big club, stadium's nice, pitch is unreal. The fans are good. So I was just, I was so buzzing to be there. It was brilliant.
I was just going to ask for a question, Jamie. Obviously, you mentioned Luke Williams there again. Had you had a relationship with Luke Williams prior to Swindon, or have you known him for quite a long time, or was it?
No, it's more just through football. I think he liked the style of play that I played with, and when he was at Brighton as under 21s, I would have played against Brighton from like under 16s all the way through to under 21. So I'd have played against him loads, and I think he liked my style of play. And Brighton were similar. They just played total football as well, their youth team. So I think he knew me from that and thought that I'd be a good fit. But obviously, it just took for him to get in charge as manager before he could really, really push it. And he did, and it's been, like I said, 100% my favourite club I've ever played for, 100%. And a lot, I thought I'd, hopefully kick on from it, but obviously it wasn't to be.
Following on from that, I find that interesting, because my next question was actually going to be, you see a lot, again, in this day and age, particularly where people have access to social media, whenever any player leaves a club, they're always like, thank the fans, the club will always have a place in my heart, kind of thing. But hearing you talk, you can actually hear it. And I know, I saw that you'd been tweeting after the Port Vale game in the playoffs in the season just gone and stuff. So is it fair to say you do still keep an eye out on what's going on at Swindon?
Yeah, 100%. They're one of the first teams that I look at when I get in from the game on a Saturday. I look at my phone and see how Swindon got on. I always wish well on the club, even though the way it ended for me, like, I always want them to do well, and I'm glad to see now that there's been a takeover done, and it looks like, fingers crossed, it's on the up. But yeah, I always look out for them, and I think what helps as well is that, to be fair, there's other clubs that are you know, in terms of the fans that have been really good to me and stuff like that. But Swindon are always the first ones, always. And I think like, I do see it sometimes. It pisses some people off every time it's like the transfer window opens. Someone mentions my name and then everyone just goes, "Oh, I'm talking about him again." Like, I get it. Eh?
That's not specific to you, Jamie. Almost every single ex-Swindon player gets mentioned in a window. So yeah, don't worry about that, mate.
I mean, let's be honest. Everyone always see now, despite the fact we've signed quite a few players now this window, all anyone's talking about is a striker. I give it about 10 more minutes before Nicky Jose's name gets mentioned again.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. No, I didn't know that thing. I just see it on my time when people tag me in it, and I'm thinking, "Oh, I've pissed someone off again," but I haven't, you know.
I'd see if I was you, I'd play on it. I'd say, yeah. You know, you always see fans mess about saying, "Oh, I've just seen XYZ at this place, at the Burger King near Magic Roundabout, whatever." Yeah. I would just start finding some old pictures you take and start posting pictures of yourself in Swindon just to start winding people up.
You know what I was going to do one time? Well, I mean, this is how I was probably really, really bored and sat on my sofa, but I'm going to start doing little things. There'll be like little hints that I'm sat on my sofa. I'm nowhere near Swindon, but I was going to post like a picture of the M4. And then I was like a Robin, a picture of Robin, or something like that. But I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to do that.
It certainly would have riled a few up, that's for sure.
Oh, there'd have been meltdowns. There would have been.
Oh, brilliant.
It'd be doesn't take much though, really.
I was going to say.
We've spoken a lot on our podcast over the course of the last two and a half seasons since we've been doing it, about how football's changed, and obviously we focus primarily on Swindon, and something that keeps cropping up, particularly when a team isn't doing so well, is this sort of ideal about characters within football. Now, I know what a character is will have changed over time, but you know, when you were in the Swindon squad, who were the real sort of big characters, whether that was, you know, the Joker or the one that was like deadly serious, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we had danger room, actually. We're all kind of similar age. Like, I'd say that the loudest by a country mile was Viggs, by a country mile.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Every day, brilliant with him. You could hear him coming before you'd see him. Like, you'd hear him a mile off. He was always like in and around the banter. Then you had like Nath Thompson, who's just like incredible human being. Monster on the pitch, but like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He funny guy as well. Like, I got on really well with him. Lou Thompson, same again, just like an incredible human. Geordie Turnbull, like the whole changing room was so good, and we got on so well because we were like a similar age. And like any change room, there were some players that just kind of were a little bit bad eggs, but I'm sure they had their own motivations of what they wanted from football and what they wanted from life. So I try not to judge too much in that sense. But like the majority were just like so good. It was so good. Similar age, always like going for coffees and stuff after training and that. But yeah, it was good. But you're right. In terms of characters, like they're getting drowned out the game a little bit, because I don't really know why. I think that managers now don't like characters because
they'll question their authority.
Threat them, yeah, they might be a threat and they might question their authority, when really I think that you should be able to go and say, question a manager on whatever it is, as long as you do it in a respectful way. I think you should be allowed to do that, and you should be able to voice your opinion. But they don't want that. They want, a lot of them now don't like that. They want to have no problem, and if someone answers them back or questions them, then they're gone.
You think that's being coached out, that like characters are being coached out of being characters at like academy level, youth level?
100%, yeah, 100%. Like I think my year group, and probably I'd say mine was probably one of the last to actually
have an opinion
and coach that and learn your, where you stand in football. Like I think it wasn't long after I finished my youth team that you didn't have to do jobs, and You didn't have to do all that sort of stuff, and like I think that gives you a good grounding with it. And you know, when you look down, like, because we would sometimes get absolutely battered by the first team, not punched, but like just verbally. And like that gives you that, you know, when you get to that level. And I understand that when I listen to Under the Cosh, like I hear something and I think, no, that's way too far. But I think by being grilled all the time by the first team players, and whether you learn the banter and you learn the ropes, and that builds your character a bit. Whereas now it's none of that. You don't have it, and they're just like robots. They're just like robots. Go to training, go to the gym, eat salad all day, eat this, eat that. Like that's not like, you know, you need to go out for a beer.
Yeah.
I say you need to go out for a beer. Like, I'm not saying everyone needs to drink, because people have their own, but like going out for a night out or whatever it is, like you need to do that. You need to do that.
Let loose, cut loose a little bit.
Being coached out, like, you know, when I finished my youth team, the academy manager took all of the second years, who were obviously 18 years old, took us all for a beer. Like that wouldn't, I couldn't see that happening now. I couldn't see it. I literally couldn't see that happening. And yeah, I think they're being coached out. I think they're being be the perfect athlete, and that's not possible. You'll drive yourself crazy if that's what you're trying to do.
It just
impossible.
I was going to say it takes the fun out of the game at the end of the day. I get football's supposed to be a fun game, it's supposed to be a fun career and everything like that. But like you say, if you can't have your own independent fun or your own fun with your peers, like sort of thing like that. I mean, I go out with my work teammates every now and then, like sort of thing like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the others do as well. Like if you can't do that, or if there's some kind of discipline, because I suppose you get managers these days that are like, right, you've got to stick to a completely strict regime. I don't want you going out this, then, and wherever. I mean, obviously I assume that that you wouldn't be for that at all, would you?
No, I think the problem is, if you say to players of my age and probably older, if you say you're not allowed out, that's like, that's just dismissed, really. Like, not all the time. Like, you'd never go out on a Friday, but I'd never go out. I'd never go out like where it might affect my performance. Like, I personally wouldn't go out before training. I wouldn't go out before games. Like, I'm not saying that. But you've got to have a night out to switch off. Like these players, I see sometimes on like social media and stuff like that, where they're these young players and like they're playing like part-time football, and they've come through an academy and they're playing part-time football, and they're like, play a game, off to the gym for recovery, back home eating like a perfect meal. Like it sucks the fun out. You're just going to stress yourself out, and mentally it's not healthy to be like that. I don't think. I think you need to enjoy it, and there's times where you can go and have a night out or go and have a burger and chips. Like, it's not the end of the world.
Well, I mean, it's true, because at the end of the day, yes, you know, for someone like yourself, it's a job. And much like us in our jobs, you have to take your job seriously. But the reason it's, you know, so many boys and girls grow up wanting to be pro footballers is because it's a job playing a game kind of thing, isn't it? You know, you're not, how do you say this without making it more, without making it less?
Hobby.
Yeah.
Growing up, football is your hobby, and you're going for it as a job. And I wish that it was like that. Like, yeah. The second you get into it, it opens your eyes massively to go.
The business side of it ruins the fun element.
Because if you take, like, let's say the county, if you have the county ground, you have two teams, and you have all the fans, and you have a game of football, like, it's the best thing ever. But what I've seen is, like, the reality of it is, you've got all that, you've got the stadium, you've got the fans, blah, blah, but then every single one of those players, there'll be a situation that's happened with them. Maybe he's tried to leave and the club's blocked it, or they're not giving him a new contract because of whatever, or the manager's done this, or they're not So that's where you realise, like, football gets so distorted with it. Like, I wish, and I bet every single player would agree, like, I wish it was just the football and you could just like enjoy it and there was no bullshit behind it and there was never issues with contracts and never issues with people that are lying to you and all stuff like this.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, that's the case.
Do you still speak to anyone who you played with when you were at Swindon?
Like, if I saw any of them, I'd be absolutely buzzing to like have a sit down with and a chat. Johnny Goddard, I speak with quite regularly. He moved in with me when he signed there, so we lived together when he signed there. Sorry. Like I would, yeah, I'd be buzzing. I went to Nathan and I went to Lou's wedding. I went on Nate's stag do. This was a few years ago now. Like Luke, I still speak to. Ross, I still speak to regularly. Yeah, like I'd be buzzing to speak to any of them. Like we had a really good group there.
Nice.
I think it's only
sorry.
It's only Ellis. He's the only one flying the flag at the minute.
Yeah.
And still much loved. He is.
Yeah, good guy.
At the club, that's for sure.
We've got a song for him now as well.
It's only took about 15 years.
Only took us 10 years.
We're not the most original fan base. It takes us a while to warm to someone.
It was actually his little brother that came up with the song as well, actually.
He was just desperate to get us singing a song.
Literally.
And then the minute all the Swindon fans start singing it, he got sent off.
Oh.
Standard. Listen, Jamie, thank you very much for your time this evening. I really do appreciate it. Unless Rich or Craig have anything additional they want to fire through as a final question, I'm happy to thank you for your time. Look forward to posting this out and getting the reaction from it. But honestly, the stories you've given us and how in depth you've gone with quite a lot of them has been really, really good to hear. So thank you very much.
No problem at all. Enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Anything final from yourselves, Rich or Craig?
No, just basically same as what you just said there. Yeah, thanks, Jamie, for coming on. It was fascinating, really good insight into the world of football.
No problem at all. Glad you enjoyed it.
Jamie.
And don't forget when retirement does happen.
Yeah,
coming back on for the retirement episode.
Yeah. Oh, what I'll probably you'll have to join the queue because I'm gonna.
Well, when the book comes out, make sure that there's a book signing tour in Swindon. We'll all be there.
Yeah.
But no, thank you very much for your time, Craig, Rich. Thank you very much for yours. And little side note aside from this, just remember, as announced in our episode that published this morning, Fools Rush In's new branding goes live from next Friday night on our first ever live show. So we look forward to you joining us then. But for myself, Craig, Rich, and Jamie, thank you very much for watching and listening. Goodbye.